It's been a terrible year for the Alibaba share price. Ended last year around $232, and here we are now trading at $136. If we take this out, it's actually the worst levels in almost 3 years. So are we going to see finally the stock make a base, or actually is there even more weakness to come from here? I thought it'd be interesting to do an update on Alibaba. Looking at this trend now that's been in place since October last year, off those highs from 320, and here we are now down around 136. We're heading towards what had been really important historical lows for the stock going back about 3 years. So as usual in this video, I'll talk about why things are so tough for the stock at the moment, the disappointing results that we've just had. Then we'll come back onto the chart, look at the technicals in a bit more detail, and see if perhaps now things are too pessimistic and it's time to buy. Hello, I'm David Jones from Capital.com, and I thought this time round on the Stocks channel, let's take a look at Alibaba. You've seen the performance there. It's had a really torrid time, the stock. Recent earnings were disappointing, so I thought let's do an update, go through some of the news, talk about the earnings, look at the levels to watch, then jump back onto the chart to take a look at the technicals in a bit more detail. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, if you could click on subscribe, it does help support the channel, and it means we can continue to push out lots of different content on these various stocks throughout the week. Right, let's get into it and take a look at Alibaba in a bit more detail. So just in case you're not familiar what the company does, it's a Chinese multinational tech business specializing in e-commerce, retail, and the internet in general. It was founded in 1999 by the now well-known entrepreneur Jack Ma, and it came to the market. You could buy shares in Alibaba since 2014. So it's been around as a publicly traded company for 7 years. Now, these latest results, they only came out a few days ago, but they were really disappointing. They missed revenue expectations, they missed earnings expectations, so came in lower than the market was forecasting. If we look at earnings on a year-by-year basis, they're down 38%. And on top of all of this, the company cut its revenue outlook for 2022. So a real disappointing mix for all aspects, I think, from the earnings. The company has been facing increased competition from the likes of JD.com, also from the likes of the owner of TikTok. So there are lots of different companies that have muscled in and taking market share away for Alibaba. When it comes to analysts' expectations for the stock is still rated a buy. That's no surprise there. I think we do tend to see mainly analysts giving out buy recommendations for stock. But in terms of the range over the next 12 months, it's massive. It ranges from, at the time of recording, the stock is trading around $136. The forecasts go from $333 on the upside to $35 on the downside. So a massive range for analyst expectations. I don't think it makes that much sense, to be honest. They're all saying buy mainly. The stock, though, let's look at the performance of the stock. For the year to date, really disappointing year, particularly when you consider how well stock markets have done. Alibaba's down 40% year to date, and we're currently trading at the lowest levels since January 2019, so almost a 3-year low for the stock at the moment. So what does this mean? Is really it all too pessimistic for the stock? Is all of the bad news, the earnings for next year being lower than expected, forecast into the price now or factored into the price? Is it a buy down here? Let's talk about some of the levels to watch, then we'll jump onto the charts and take a look at things in a bit more detail. So I think from a resistance point of view, the November high was $172, which is a way away from where we are now. After that or below that, I think we've got $150 as maybe a psychological level if we see a bounce from here. But where it gets interesting, I think, is where we're looking at support. Big support coming in. We'll see it on the chart in a second. The January 2019 low at $130. So only $6 or so from where we are now. So as usual, to put some color on these numbers, let's take a look at the charts and the technicals in a bit more detail. So here's the chart for Alibaba over the last year or so. I thought let's start things off with a longer term moving average for a change. So I've got a 50-day moving average on here. And of course, in case you need reminding, With moving averages, we get a sell signal when the price falls below the moving average, suggesting that perhaps a new trend down is starting, and we get a buy signal when the price moves above the moving average, suggesting that perhaps the downtrend is stopping and the stock's going to go up. We've had a few buy signals along the way for Alibaba on the way down over the last 12 months, but they haven't lasted long. The stock has flipped back round and given us a sell. The latest signal we had just in the last few days or so, I think off the back of those earnings, as the price moved through $160, a sell signal for the moving average. That moving average at the moment is sitting still around 160, so we'd need to see the price move above there to generate a buy signal. But again, given the performance of buy signals in this downtrend over the last year, if that happened, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to see a reversal. With these buy signals have not lasted very long, so I think we need to look at some other indications as well. If we take a look at the RSI down here, we've got a 10-day RSI on the stock, really oversold at the moment. We need to go back to August of this year to see it this much oversold. And eventually it did have the slightest of bounces from there. But as I often say, just because an RSI is giving a reading one way or another doesn't necessarily mean the stock is going to reverse. So I'd be a bit cautious about reading too much into this RSI at the moment. The stock doesn't care. Its 10-day RSI is oversold if the stock is still weak. So we might get a short-term bounce for here. But for me, the really important thing, first of all, to look at is this trend. So off the October 2020 highs, around 320 for the stock. This trend line's done a great job. Lots of touches on the way down. The latest rally up to the trend line in October of this year ran out of steam again. That trend line at the moment is coming in around $175 for the stock. So for me, to start to signal that this downtrend is over, we would need to see strength through that trend line and those old highs from October. So those highs in October coming in around, about 182. So 175 to 182, I think could still be something of a barrier on the upside. And that's the level, I think, to watch to signal the start potentially of a longer term trend reversal. So for now, it's still weak. But if we take this chart out, so I flipped this to a weekly chart now. So each candlestick represents a week's worth of trading. And where I think it's interesting, we've already broken the May 2019 lows. They were at 147. So we've gone through those already. But it's this zone here from October of 2018. So it's a 3-year low for the stock. Around about 129.80 was the low. Let's call it 130. And again, the lows from here, again, 129 at the end of 2018. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch what happens if the stock edges a bit lower. I think if we break below there, again, it could suggest that perhaps that the downtrend is picking up steam once more. And if we take things out, we're looking at probably the $100 zone as perhaps the next target if 130 gets broken. So it's still weak, but I think it's an interesting one to watch in the days and the weeks to come to see how it performs around these old lows. But the trend for Alibaba still definitely down for now. And I think from a technical analysis point of view, looking for an opportunity to buy, very much sitting on hands, see if it starts to form a base down here and can it finally crack that downtrend. We'll come back to it in the months ahead and do an update. That's it for this update in Alibaba. We'll come back to it in the months ahead, see if it starts to build a base down here ahead of these 3-year lows. Does sentiment finally start to change? Does that trend show signs of stopping? We'll do an update, but for now, from me, David Jones and Capital.com, we'll leave things there. Good luck with your investing. For more trading videos just like this, please subscribe to our channel.